Meet me. Welcome back, boys. And today we're going to have a quick, fun little video that I'm going to call the top 10 best PvP units in Epic 7 currently. Now, keep in mind that I'm a bruiser player in RT, so we're not going to talk about cleave units like, OpSig or Ran, things like that. Doesn't mean they're not good. It's just not my playstyle. So maybe more accurately, top 10 bruiser RTA units, but the vast majority of top RTA players do typically play mostly bruiser playstyle. And I've been doing a lot of RTA in preseason because I've been bored. Lost Ark beta's over, so it's just garnered from my experience drafting and playing. People who play me probably very well know my playstyle and could probably guess what my favorite heroes are. But we're going to go over each of them anyway, and I'm going to explain why I think that they're the strongest right now. Now, along those lines, there are some heroes that didn't make the cut that are absolutely very strong. So, there's a lot of heroes like Acid, Strays, LQC, Landief, Tene. All these heroes are very strong, and in the right situation, absolutely the best pick. But to me, to make it to the top 10, you had to have several qualifications. Like, does it fit into a lot of drafts? Are they oppressive heroes that kind of force the other player to draft something to deal with it? Or they just lose? Those are kind of the metrics I was going on. And another good metric is, in my RT experience, were these the kind of contested heroes that showed up every single match? And I think my top 10 have heroes that you're not going to go a single RTA match without seeing at least 2, 3, probably like 5 or 6 of them. So in terms of honorable mentions, I'd say number 11, if I had to pick, would be Amelia. She's very good right now, a very strong unit, but she just barely didn't make the cut. So let's get started right away because I do want to keep this video a little succinct. So at number 10, I'm going to put AOL. Now, a lot of players are going to be like, what? This should be number 1. This is the most toxic unit in the game. See, the thing about AOL is if you don't have counters to her, she is very hard to deal with and very annoying. So the players that hate AOL the most are usually like Masters and Challengers players, where if they can't outspeed the AOL, they don't have anything built to deal with it. But for higher end players that have units with like 250 ER, they have Mediator Cowark. Let me tell you, the typical way of dealing with a AOL early picker is they're either missing a tank or a DPS slot because they picked AOL. Now, obviously, she has a crap ton of utility, but typically, if I run into AOL, I'm either just going to pick something like Mediator Cowark and Maid and just not be able to be debuffed, or I'm just going to tank through it because I know they have one dead unit that you could just focus down and kill if you can survive turn 1 and 2 because they're missing a DPS. So at the higher end, I don't think most higher end players think she's as oppressive as lower end players do, but she is still very, very annoying, don't get me wrong. It's just higher end players generally have a lot more options of dealing with it, whereas, newer players and Masters or Challengers with worse speed gear, they don't have like 250 ER units, she kind of just stomps you, right? Because you can't do anything if you let her through. So very annoying unit, but for me, I put her at number 10. Now, the next one, I just mentioned him, is actually a hero that everyone thought was a laughingstock. Remember, in Epic 7, the more of a laughingstock you are, the brighter your future is, because everyone's going to say this hero is useless and it's going to get buffed to all oblivion. Mediator Cowark is so strong right now. Let's forget about the fact that he literally cannot be disabled, right? Because he cleanses, the only thing that'll disable him is something that's 2 turns, I guess. Like a Falcon or Clury can lock him down for turn 1, but that's very rare, where a turn denying debuff that lasts more than 1 turn. It's very rare, so there's very few heroes that can actually lock him down. And Mediator Cowark means a full counter to pretty much any debuffer in the game. And attack buff and immunity are 2 of the strongest buffs in the game. On top of that, people don't discount his S2, but it's really strong. The barrier is pretty decent. Decrease attack is big, but the biggest part here is dispelling all buffs. It's all buffs, not like one buff or reducing by 1 turn. You clean a target and make it easy for them to kill. Like getting barrier and defense buff off something makes it 10 times easier to kill them. So at the higher end, a lot of players just run him at like 250 speed and use him as an initiator and a counter to things like AoL, because AoLs will typically be faster than that. Basically just deny the turn 1. A lot of times the AoL won't even S3 on turn 1 if Mediator Cowark is right behind them. And basically you just mess with them all game. And the CR push is fantastic. I have a feeling some people are running him on Unity because he doesn't really need immunity or anything like that, because he seems to dual attack a lot, pushing random things up and ruining the turn cycling. And on Warhorn or Durandal or whatever, he actually turn cycles quite fast. So very annoying hero to deal with. And yeah, just extremely, extremely strong right now. Now, the next one should come as no surprise to most of you. I need to do a better job of searching, but it's Crimson Armin. So he comes in at number 8 for me, because he's just the best damage mitigation option in the game in terms of pure mitigation, right? Because if you put it on Aureus, it has basically a built-in adamant, or slightly worse than a built-in adamant, plus Aureus. So it's a huge percent reduction to your team in terms of damage. The one problem with this hero is doesn't really do anything outside of that. Now, the 100% provoke is good, same as FCC, but other than that, kind of just sits there and is a meat shield for your team, right? But that's a very important role to have. Any other unit you'd have to bring two, like an Aureus holder and an Adamant holder. In terms of C. Armin, just huge damage mitigation. The invincibility is very key if they don't have strips or anything. You basically typically speed tune him to go last if possible. So your DPSs go, then C. Armin goes, and your team has a turn of being basically untouchable. And they come out of it with immunity too, which is very good. So C. Armin, very strong. Now at number 7, a hero that has just been a mainstay in the RTA meta forever is Spectre Tianabria. She is still very strong. Now, the existence of Belian has kind of knocked her down a peg, but she's still a very strong, like, 4 or 5 pick, where if they drafted a lot of single-target units, and a lot of single-target units are popular now, she's kind of the thing you pick near the end to basically punish that and say, hey, if you don't ban this, Spectre Tianabria is going to go ham and wipe out your whole team. Because she hits crazy hard, can stun, gets stronger every time someone dies. Still one of the strongest heroes in the game and absolutely shows up all the time in the Legend tier. Just a very strong hero, but, you know, not a safe early pick anymore. Like, people back in the day when there was a smaller hero pool would literally first pick Spectre Tianabria. That is a very dangerous game you're playing now if you do that. The very few people who do that will first ban Belian. Otherwise, it's just kind of suicide. Number 6, Maid Chloe. She's been very irritating ever since the buffs. She's still pretty irritating. There are a handful of heroes that deal for very well, like Landy's, if they don't have a good answer for her. Landy will blow up Maid teams. Rimaru is quite strong against Maid right now. You can also just try to kill her in the opener. But a lot of Maids are built to be able to resist the typical AoL, so she's kind of hard to stop with something like an AoL. But obviously, AoE, revive buff, attack buff, 2 buff cleanse, or 2 debuff cleanse, decent healing on her passive, and that annoying random stun that'll lose you a bunch of games. I mean, nobody can really argue with that, right? That is just very, very irritating, and yeah, definitely a very strong hero. Now, unfortunately, the next one, you guys know what it's going to be, is going to have to be Grapehead. So I'm going to put Grapehead at number 5. He is just such an annoying unit right now because he's kind of a unit where he actually hits really hard, right? The vast majority of high tier 1s are built on pen set. And the thing is, it turns every match into kind of like a dice roll, because I've had matches where he kind of just gets, you know, blown up instantly in 2 hits because he doesn't dodge. But he's kind of the hero where if you don't draft an answer to him, kind of like S10A, he kind of literally just solos your team, right? If you want like some kind of tanky comp that doesn't have a lot of damage and you let Violet through, you just lose. You let a bunch of blue DPS against Violet, didn't ban to Violet, you just lose. So he's just a very strong unit right now. And the thing about him, he's a relatively safe pick into the vast majority of drafts. Like obviously if they're picking a bunch of fire units with like or that new hero, obviously you don't want to take him. The new hero actually did a good job of kind of knocking him down a peg, Zahak, because Zahak with his multis can actually pretty close to one shot, if not one shot, 99% of Violets. But still, Violet's very toxic, just extremely strong right now. And yeah, as much as I hate to say it, he's really good. Belian is number 4. Just the most incredibly annoying hero in the game. The soul thing doesn't matter for me that much because I play Bruiser versus Bruiser and I don't really care about souls generally. But obviously I pick her all the time against cleavers. A lot of cleavers will first ban Belian because a lot of cleaves depend very heavily on cleave. But from my perspective, I don't care about the souls. What I do care about is the sheer amount of RNG in this hero. And I actually don't think she would be as toxic if her S1 didn't have an RNG chance of dispelling buffs. Because the most annoying thing is fighting a Belian and she counters you 3 times in a row. When you single target attack stuff, so it's low chance to Elbrus, and she counters every single time, and not only did you take a ton of damage, she stripped off your entire team's buffs. Like imagine running Maid, and then in 2 random turns, Belian strips off both the attack and revive buff. She's just very annoying, hits very hard, is very tanky on top of that. It's on counter. There's no target you can hit where you're not risking being countered. Because the same reason why Dizzy was annoying back then, right? Except, what was the solution to Dizzy? Don't hit the Dizzy. There's no answer like that here. You have to hit something, right? As long as you have a move, unless you have a move that cannot be countered, you're rolling the dice every time against this, and she's hard to kill. She has a self-defense buff. She strips you. She hits your whole team. Just one of the most annoying heroes in the game. Next, another mainstay. This isn't a new hero. Fallen Cecilia. The thing about Fallen Cecilia is her kit is so simple and not unique, but so strong. The barrier, I mean, she's just the best damage mitigation in the game in the opener, right? The barrier shuts down a lot of heroes like, like Sage Ball or F10A or whatever. And it basically makes it much harder to one-shot stuff, and even shuts down things like acids and stuff like that. Yeah, there's really not much to say about this hero, just very strong, and a lot of heroes kind of depend on this to survive. Like, a lot of times if someone's prioritizing picking FCC early, what does that kind of mean? They're trying to protect something, and typically it's a Landy, because running Landy without FCC is horrible, because there's so many AoE units in the game now, they just get popped out of stealth and then murdered, which is a big reason why Landy isn't in every single match nowadays like she used to. Back in the day, she was in literally every match. Now, it's kind of a little more dicey, because if you don't have FCC to protect her, I've even seen a lot of people transition to like tanky Bruiser Landys for that reason. She's kind of more a liability than anything else. But FCC is the queen of protection, annoying hero, and she's the bomb. Alright, number 2 is not Senya. She's garbage. Number 2 is Rimaru. Senya's not garbage, but she's definitely not top 10. Rimaru, limited hero, obviously. Just extremely strong right now. The buff steal is crazy, and this move hits hard. A well-built Rimaru one-shots my Landy with this thing, because a lot of times I've had matches where they ban my damage mitigation. My Landy has immunity, I'm forced to go first, and the Rimaru will hit me for 15k and one-shot it without mitigation. So it hits hard. It steals 2 buffs, and by the way, this steals buffs, the S3 also steals buffs, because some people think that the buff steal has a cooldown. It doesn't. It's just the fact that he doesn't have many non-S1 moves that don't have cooldowns. So he can steal off the S2 and then steal again with the S3 right after. This move, especially paired with 8 buffs in the beginning, easy to get with like FCC, or if he stole 2 buffs on the counter, one-shots a lot of things. Like, you can easily one-shot a Maid in the opener with this. I've done it a ton of times. If you have like 250 plus crit damage, 3,500 plus attack, not that much. And with the 10,000 added damage, it's all it takes. But the other annoying thing about Rimaru is, you know a hero's good when a lot of players are willing to first pick it, right? Rimaru is a very contested, common 1-2 pick. Like, if you don't first pick him, a very common, 1-2 pick for the second pick person is Rimaru FCC. And the thing is, it immediately puts you on the back foot, right? Because, a lot of people pick like AOL into Rimaru. A lot of Rimaru pickers will ban AOL for that reason. But the thing is, he's just very annoying to deal with because you can't really stop this. It's not even like a counterattack. Like, it will proc off a counter. So one thing that happens a lot to me is they'll hit me, my Belian will counter, and then he'll analyze and assess the Belian, counter to counter basically, push up to the front, and then blow me up. It's just a very strong hero right now. No reason not to build him. And, a random thing, a lot of people ask me, should you fully mola him? You should fully mola the S2 and the S3. Definitely S3 first. S1, if you really love him a lot and use him, you should probably mola that too, but you could get away with not molaing the S1 in the beginning if you're starved. But very strong hero all over the place. Just, he's tops. Now, number one, some people might disagree with me, but anyone who runs into me in RTA a lot knows right away what my number one hero is going to be. And it is Apoc Ravi. So, old school Apoc Ravi was pretty good, but not good enough. Because the main risk with Apoc Ravi was people just ignored it and it didn't do enough. With the buffs, and I'll be honest, I underestimated how much the buffs were going to help her. She just does so much damage now, guys. You put her on speed set, and what do you have? In terms of tankiness, she didn't change much, right? She was basically unkillable back then too, right? But the thing about her back then was she was unkillable, but she didn't do anything. Now she can't really be ignored. The injury actually helped her a lot, because it's just stacking over time as she keeps chopping away at you. But more importantly, it just hits freaking hard. Her S1 can easily one-shot a squishy, like something like, like a flan or something that's built pure speed. Her S1 will straight up just chop it and one-shot it. With the Soul Burn, you're going to one-shot Soul Weavers. And the S3, once you get triple stacked, forget about it. There's no way to survive it unless you have a lot of mitigation. Especially because most Apoc Ravis are on pen set. But the reason I think she's so strong is because, number one, it forces the other team to have an answer to her, right? Because a lot of them are on seed and stuff. She's hard to control. But the thing is, she's so tanky. Like, if you hit her with something like an Amelia, you literally just heal her. So you need something that chunks her for a lot of damage. Something like an S10A. Something like a Landy. And if you didn't draft anything like that and you got a Ravi too, eventually she's going to chop you to death. Second, she's just such a strong early pick because she doesn't really have any counters. Like, her strongest counter right now is LQC. So it's not uncommon for me, if I get first pick, to just first ban LQC or pre-ban LQC and first pick a Ravi. She's strong against Cleave. She's very strong in any bruiser matchup. This is what makes a hero strong, right? It's when you can pick them early with confidence, because it doesn't matter what they picked, because you control the draft. They have to draft around you. And the thing is, Apoc Ravi, she gets through in any draft, it's fine. You don't really feel that bad about her being there. Whereas other heroes that are potentially strong, like let's think like Politis. You're not going to first pick Politis, because if they don't pick anything with a non-attack skill, I mean, she's suddenly bad? No, she's still fine, but she's kind of a liability in that draft now, right? She can't make use of the best part of her kit. But a Ravi, she's just strong everywhere. So just a quick recap. We'll go over the top 10. Number 10, I had AOL. Number 9, Mediator Cowark. 8, C Armin. 7, S10A. 6, Maid. 5, Violet. 4, Belian. 3, FCC. 2, Rimaru. And number 1, Apoc Ravi. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's like 30, 50 other heroes that are probably right below these heroes. So don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that if you're not in the top 10, you're not a strong hero. There's a ton of other strong heroes, like I said, like Amelia, LQC, Strays, Rem, F10A, etc. But these 10 heroes are the ones that I think show up the most, have the most draftability, are the most contested, at least for right now. The meta is always changing. And yeah, that's about it. So if you guys have any of these heroes and you're serious about RTA, build them. You won't regret it. They're just super strong right now. So anyways, what do you guys think? Do you guys disagree with me? Go ahead, leave it in the comments. I don't care. This is my opinion video from my experience doing RTA. And, you know, I think I have more RTA experience than the vast majority of people. Not everyone, obviously. But I generally know at least somewhat what I'm talking about. So anyways, thanks for watching. Till next time, boys. Peace out.